Hello, Janet. It's me, Ash Talbot, and I am currently, as you know, working towards my level 5 teaching qualification. So today I'm going to be exploring safeguarding within further education, specifically for me within apprenticeship programs. So I'll cover key safeguarding principles and legislation, the impacts on learners and teaching environments, the role of the teacher or trainer, policy effectiveness, and strategies for intervention. So let's get going. Hopefully, this is going to come across okay. I haven't put two and two together before, so let's see what happens. There's only one way to find out. So here we go. So I'm just going to summarize a couple of these bits, and I'm going to try and describe my thoughts around them as I use the slides on the presentation that I've built for this. So I think safeguarding is about more than just preventing harm. It's about making environments where our learners feel like they've got the support they need, that they're respected, and they're safe in general, especially with us and also in their workplace. So on that, our apprentices often transition between workplace and training settings. So it's consistent safeguarding we need. It needs to extend across both our training and in their workplace. We see them every 6 to 8 weeks on average, something like that, for only 2.5 days. So the rest of that time, they're in the workplace with their employer. So I'm hoping that this would build a culture of openness and proactive support, which will help build learner confidence and well-being, and that they feel like they can discuss this kind of thing with us. So I'm just going to highlight the 5 sections that I have put on the presentation there. So number 1 is protecting learners from physical, emotional, psychological, and online harm as best we can. Number 2, promoting learner welfare and healthy developments. We all want that for our learners, don't we? Number 3, maintaining safe and inclusive environments for both the training centre and the workplace. That's incredibly important. That's also covered on number 5. So before we get there, number 4 here. So we want to be encouraging open communication and learner disclosure. So open communication, if there is an issue or the learner feels comfortable telling you that something is not right, that they can come to that and disclose that something is happening. Number 5, which links in with 3, is supporting equality, diversity, and inclusion in our safeguarding practice. So along with maintaining safe and inclusive environments in both the training centre and the workplace. I think a lot of the issues that we see with young people nowadays, and we probably have done for a while really, is related to diversity and inclusion possibly. So just food for thought. We're going to make sure that we include that in this as well. So let's just move forward to these 8 that I've put on here. Now, I'm just going to summarize each one dead quickly just with the titles, and then I'm going to go into some more detail on each one. So these legislative frameworks outline safeguarding responsibilities in both post-16 education, and some of them are pre as well. But I'm going to concentrate on post-16 because that's more relevant to myself. So, for example, under the prevent duty, we must recognise and challenge signs of radicalisation. Through the KCSIE, which I'll cover, we ensure all staff are trained to understand the need for vigilance, especially with learners placed in external workplace environments where they may not be as well policed or looked after as they probably would in one of our training facilities, which is quite an important thing, which is it's great that we have the engagement officers that do visit the workplace and they get a bit of a feel for what's happening and see if their mentors and managers are going to be supportive. So let's go over each one of these then. So we'll start at the top left. Can I use my little laser? Oh, I can. Look at that. Brilliant. So Children Act 1989 and 2004, because there were some amendments, and that's the legal foundation for child welfare. The second one here, Keeping Children Safe in Education, which is the KCSIE 2025, because there's revisions. which is the statutory guidance for schools and further education. The third one, Working Together to Safeguard Children 2018. So this is a multi-agency safeguarding piece of legislation, which I'll discuss in a bit more detail. It was changed from a previous style from some of the research I'd done. I hadn't come across this before, so most of this is new to me. So it's been really interesting, and I've made of it what I can. Safeguarding Vulnerable Groups Act 2006. So the main chunk of this was establishing DBS requirements for people that are training in certain conditions. Again, I'll delve into a bit more detail later. Prevent duty, bottom left then. So Counter-Terrorism and Security Act 2015, which is mainly around preventing radicalization. Education and Training, Welfare of Children Act 2021, which is safeguarding duties extended to post-16. So that's very relative to me and most of us that are training, doing what we do. Children and Social Work Act 2017. So improved oversight for care leavers and safeguarding reviews. I'll go into this in more detail, but from my research, this is people that have been in care that have had difficulties or just poor situations, etc., being neglected. And this is covering people that are leaving those situations. And Skilled and Post-16 Education Act 2022, which addresses special educational needs, etc., and support and safeguarding in further education. Again, this is becoming highlighted quite a lot with us, and it's quite interesting. Again, we've had some internal meetings and training about this recently, so that makes it quite nice and relevant with our SEND Learning Support Officer, Amanda, so really helpful. So let's move on swiftly then. So I'm going to dig into each one. I'm going to leave these slides on, and I'm going to give you a load of information based on talk about what I've found in my research, which has taken a heck of a lot of doing. Actually, it's been quite a challenge. So here we go. I'll leave these up on the screen there. So together, the Children's Act 1989 and the Children Act 2004 provide the core legal framework for safeguarding and promoting the welfare of children in the UK. So these acts outline the duties of local authorities, schools, and other organisations to protect children, the rights of children to be cared for and kept safe, and the principles that the child's welfare is always the paramount concern in any decision affecting them. So that's quite an important one there. So key principles from the Children's Act 89. Now, this introduced the concept that children have rights, and these should be protected by law. Emphasis is on parents and professionals must work in the best interests of the child again. It requires local authorities to safeguard and promote the welfare of children in need. It allows courts to issue child protection orders when there is significant harm or risk to them, which is quite an interesting one. And it sets out a legal duty for professionals to share information if it's in the interest of the child's safety. So then it was revised with some updates in 2004. So these are some of the key updates that I found. So again, this was introduced after the death of a child to improve interagency working, the updates here. So some of them were established, and they established the role of the Children's Commissioner, which is an interesting position there, powerful position. It required local authorities, police, health, education, and others to cooperate through local safeguarding children's boards, which is now being replaced with the multi-agency partnerships, which I will talk about shortly. And it wants to reinforce that every child matters, including their rights to be safe, healthy, enjoy and make a positive contribution to the world, and achieve economic well-being. So now, why do these matter to us in further education and apprenticeships? Because it's apprenticeships that I'm dealing with. So I've found that they underpin all safeguarding duties and responsibilities across educational sectors, including post-16, which is us. Trainers and teachers have a legal obligation to act if they believe a child is at risk. That's a massive thing, and it's necessary, hands down. And to encourage multi-agency collaboration. That's a big one. And I don't think big agencies do collaborate as well as they should do. So this is vital for safeguarding apprentices who may split their time between education and workplace settings, which is all of ours, and it's very biased towards the workplace. So that's quite an important one there. So some key areas in keeping children safe in education 2025 then. So the KCSIE is statutory guidance from the Department of Education in England, and it sets out the legal duties of schools, colleges, and post-16 providers to safeguard and promote the welfare of children and young people under the age of 18. So it's designed to ensure that all learners are protected from abuse, neglect, and harm, and that education providers create safe, supportive environments where safeguarding is embedded into everyday practice, which we try and do. It's hard, but we do. We just try and pick up on everything that we possibly can. So, number one then, so safeguarding responsibilities. So all staff, including tutors, assessors, employers, our engagement specialists, must understand their role in protecting our learners. A designated safeguarding lead, or DSL, I've abbreviated that quite a lot in this just to try and compress some of the text in the slides. So a designated safeguarding lead must be in place and accessible. We have ours, which is a chap called Tony. And staff should report concerns promptly and not investigate. So pass the information on. We need to report the concerns, and it will be dealt with through our correct channels, again, which I'll cover. So number two, safer recruitment. So providers must follow safer recruitment processes to prevent unsuitable people working with children. So this includes enhanced DBS checks, reference reviews, and awareness of safeguarding concerns during hiring. We all have our DBS updates quite regularly. I think it's every 12 months, every 6 months. We have a chap called Gary, who is part of our IQA team, and he looks after all that with us. So we're getting quite used to all of that now. It's quite new, but it is what it is. Number three then, so recognizing abuse and neglect. So clear definitions and signs of physical, emotional, sexual abuse, neglect, and exploitation. And staff are expected to be able to recognize both obvious and subtle warning signs. Of course, we need to be trained, but that helps us pick up on these signs. Well, that's the idea. Online safety then. So the emphasis on protecting learners from online harm such as cyberbullying, grooming, radicalization, misinformation. That's a big one, and people don't even realize that's happening. With poor information from fake news. I think we've discussed this before, Janet, one of our sessions possibly. And also inappropriate content as well, because there's way too much of this on the internet. And strong filtering and monitoring systems are required for all provider networks. So online safety, I think, is one of the biggest, probably one of the biggest challenges to tackle, especially for us. We have no control as a trainer over the access that they have to things online. Mobile phones in pockets, they've all got mobile data. They can jump on anything they like with their phone, and it's completely out of our control. So we can only do what we can with our systems, and still that can be a challenge. Prevent duty then. So staff must be trained to spot signs of radicalization and understand how to refer learners for prevent support. And this applies to both classroom and workplace settings. So I imagine the employers will have things in place with that as well. Number 6 then, child-on-child abuse. Updated guidance on how to manage concerns such as bullying, sexual harassment, or physical violence between learners. And we need to have clear procedures for responding and supporting victims of child-on-child abuse. Number 7 then, so alternative provision oversight. So providers must obtain written assurance that any external or alternative training placements, e.g. for our apprentices, have robust safeguarding measures. And we need to have regular checks and reviews, and they must be conducted regularly and everything recorded, or we don't know if everyone's in the same position and if anything's escalated or if it's been resolved. Number 8, attendance and missing learners. So daily attendance must be recorded. I personally, and I think we do as they come into our building, we record who has arrived for training, who's ended up back at the hotel, everything we record, which is quite good actually. I then keep that record personally as well, so I know on set dates, did I have these guys? Did one of them not turn up? I've always got my own record to then hopefully mirror our records as people come into the building. Unexplained absences must be followed up immediately, especially for vulnerable learners, which we do. We're immediately in contact with the hotel, their workplace, parents, depending on their age, etc. Number 9, then, working with external agencies. Education providers are expected to work closely with children's social care, the police, health services, and local safeguarding partnerships. Number 10, then, training and induction. All staff must receive safeguarding and prevent training at induction and regular updates thereafter. I've just done a little online update actually for mine, which is quite interesting. And training should reflect our current risks, including mental health and online safety, which of course are becoming bigger and bigger concerns, aren't they? So let's move on to the next slide then. So, key areas in working together to safeguard children 2018. So, what is this? So, this is Working Together to Safeguard Children 2018, and it's statutory guidance from the UK government that outlines how all agencies and professionals should work together to safeguard and promote the welfare of children in England. So, this is designed to apply to local authorities, education providers like us, health services, police, voluntary and private sector organisations as well. A lot of these positions and people helping with these issues are volunteers. So the core purpose of this then is to ensure that every child grows up in circumstances consistent with safe and effective care, and to promote better outcomes for any vulnerable learners. And I put a list of those bits there, look. So let's have a look at some of these key principles, etc. So just give me 2 seconds while I just find, I think I've duplicated some of my notes here. Here we are. So key principles. So safeguarding is everyone's responsibility. Every professional who comes into contact with children or their families must play a role. Early help is essential. Very essential, I think, catching things early. So intervening early can prevent more serious problems from developing. Child-centered approach as well. The need and wishes of the child should always come first in safeguarding decisions, which I mentioned earlier on around this as well. So the multi-agency safeguarding, the emphasis is on multi-agency cooperation between education, health, social care, and the police. It introduces multi-agency safeguarding arrangements to replace the local safeguarding children's boards that I discussed earlier on, which are an older thing. It's now being replaced with something that everybody has to come together to deal with, rather than the board and then things are getting shot out. So I think it's making everyone collaborate quite a lot more from the research I've done here, and it makes perfect sense. And it requires shared accountability for identifying, assessing, and responding to safeguarding risks. So that's going to save passing the buck. The police, maybe not that they would, but maybe passing it off to health services saying, I'm sorry, but I left it in their hands. And then they're coming back saying, well, hang fire a minute, I left it with this volunteers group that said they were going to take care of it. It's no questions asked, shared accountability, everybody's concern. So key duties for education providers. So we need to work collaboratively with external safeguarding agencies, contribute to assessments and safeguarding plans, share relevant information promptly and appropriately, especially the speed, the promptness of this as well. If it's something that could, has been spotted early on, it could be key. And to ensure all staff are trained to identify and respond to safeguarding concerns. So again, why does this matter in further education and apprenticeships to me and my environment? So apprenticeship providers must work closely with external agencies, especially when learners are at risk. Teachers, trainers, and employers must know how to refer concerns and support multi-agency efforts. It reinforces that safeguarding is a shared responsibility, again, not just for our designated safeguard leads or senior staff. It's all of our duty. We should know how to deal with at least spotting the signs and forwarding that to people who can help and advise us. So let's move on. So, the Safeguarding Vulnerable Group Act 2006 is a UK law designed to prevent unsuitable individuals from working with children and vulnerable adults. It created the legal framework for vetting and barring those who pose a risk to safeguarding. So, what the Act actually does, so it established the Disclosure and Barring Service, or the DBS checks, which maintains lists of people barred from working with children or vulnerable adults. It requires individuals working in regulated activities, such as teaching and training young people, as like we do, that they undergo DBS checks. But it also, part of this, it makes it a criminal offence to employ somebody barred from regulated activity, like teaching and training. And it also makes it a criminal offence for you to apply to work in regulated activity when being barred. So if you find somebody is trying to get a job as a teacher or a trainer, that can be reported and then they're in bother for applying in the first place. So who does this protect? Children under 18 and vulnerable adults, such as those with care needs or disabilities. So it's super important. Now, key responsibilities for education and training providers for the Vulnerable Groups Act 2006. So we are responsible to carry out appropriate DBS checks on staff, including trainers, tutors, support workers, that's our engagement staff, and any volunteers. We don't have any, but if we did, we're still responsible. And we need to ensure the recruitment processes help identify individuals who may be a safeguarding risk. So we need to immediately refer individuals to the DBS if they are dismissed or leave due to any safeguarding concerns. That's our responsibility as the training provider. And again, why does this matter in further education and our apprenticeships? So apprentices aged 16 to 18 are legally still classed as children and are covered by this act. So trainers, assessors, and employers must be vetted to ensure learners are not exposed to risk. This ensures there's a central safeguarding system for barring unsuitable individuals across sectors. It's a flat rate. This is how we check, and the outcome will determine what happens next. Okay, so this is an interesting one. So the prevent duty is a statutory requirement introduced under the Counter-Terrorism and Security Act 2015. It places a legal obligation on education providers like ourselves, including further education, colleges, and apprenticeship providers, to help prevent individuals from being drawn into terrorism, radicalisation, or extremist ideologies. Now, the purpose of the prevent duty, what is the purpose? There's a few. To safeguard learners from being exposed to or influenced by extremist views, which social media, again, can push extremist views down people's throats. I think it's quite a dangerous tool we've developed, which is very hard to regulate. Also to identify and support individuals at risk of radicalisation before harm occurs. So spot the signs. We'll go through some of those in a little while. To promote fundamental British values such as democracy, the rule of law, individual liberty and mutual respect. I think we lose a lot of the last one nowadays, but still, we've got to strive to keep pushing it forward and offer others some mutual respect for sure. So what does the law require of education providers around the prevent duty? So we're required by law to train all staff to recognise the signs of radicalisation and understand how to refer these concerns. We need to embed prevent awareness into the curriculum with digital literature, critical thinking, tolerance of some of these, the things that we may hear, and the things that they're looking out for on social media as well. They need to be able to see what it is that, is that right? Is that wrong? How should they judge this? They should have a clear referral process, or we should have a clear referral process, often linked to the local channel panel, which supports at-risk individuals. We need to assess and manage risks specific to that setting. So local threats, if they live in, say, Sheffield, for instance, and there is a local threat, we need to manage that risk. Are our learners at risk in that area? Is it worth bringing into work today if there's going to be something close by that could cause a risk? We've got to be careful. And also online risks, which, again, really hard to police. And we need to ensure IT systems have appropriate filtering and monitoring. Again, we can do that in our building to an extent. The employees probably can. Downside is mobile phones. The best we can really do is just stop them from using them in our environment, which is easier said than done. But they, of course, all have internet access through these mobile devices, which is a bit of a pain. So, signs of radicalisation can include sudden changes in behaviour or language, expressing extreme or intolerant views. That's more common than you think, and you've got to be careful how you take some of them, or how seriously you take some of these, actually. Withdrawal from family or friends. They may keep themselves away from family and friends, start not going out as often, seeing these people as often, being very withdrawn. So that's apparently a quite a strong sign of something starting to happen. Obsessive interest in conspiracy theories or political conflicts. That's another one I found from all this research. Interesting. I've got quite a few friends that have insane conspiracy theories that I don't know sometimes if they may be losing the plot. I'm not sure. Could it be a sign of some kind of radicalization? I think some of these, even some of the COVID conspiracy theories, I think is a form of radicalization, because a lot of this has been forced down people's throats and they start to believe this thing. The way it's being put across is so believable, they buy into it. And then before you know it, they think COVID is X, Y, and Z. Interesting. But I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now, but I could probably do a whole video on that. Secretive online activity. Again, they could be communicating with people that they shouldn't online in secret through all sorts of different websites and things that may be hard to access. Again, why it matters. Why does it matter to me in further education and our apprenticeships? So apprentices may be more vulnerable due to limited supervision in workplace settings. Half of these guys are finding the staff turnovers that they may lose their mentor for a short period of time. And then they're being looked after or mentored by a service manager who might not be in the same room. There's exposure there. Exposure to social media or life changes as well. Teachers, trainers, and employers must be alert and proactive, knowing how to refer concerns and maintain a safe learning environment, which we do try our best to. And I think it's quite a nice environment that we have. And prevent is part of a wider safeguarding responsibilities, not just a standalone policy. So it is part of other policies. Okay, so this is an interesting one again. So the key areas in the Education and Training Welfare of Children Act 2021. So this act extends safeguarding duties to all post-16 education and training providers in England, including independent training providers, apprenticeship providers like ourselves, and specialist post-16 institutions. So before this act, Some providers delivered education to 16 to 18-year-olds who were not legally bound by the same safeguarding duties as schools or colleges. This legislation closes that gap and resolves that issue. So, key safeguarding provisions. It places a legal duty on post-16 education and training providers to safeguard and promote the welfare of children, which is under 18s, in their care. It applies to training providers receiving funding from government bodies, e.g. the Education and Skills Funding Agency that we get funding from, etc. It brings safeguarding duties in line with the Children's Act 1989 and keeping children safe in education guidance as well. So this ensures that all providers must have a safeguarding policy, a designated safeguarding lead, staff training in safeguarding and child protection, and procedures to handle disclosures and referrals appropriately. Again, why does this matter to me in further education and apprenticeships even? So it ensures that all learners under 18 in these post-16 education systems are protected, regardless of where they study. It holds independent apprenticeship providers and private training centres to the same safeguarding standards as colleges and schools. So we're all on the same page, doing the same thing in the same way. It strengthens the duty of care for apprentices aged 16 to 18, especially when they are placed in external workplaces. Again, that is my biggest concern with them when they're at work. So, key areas in Children's Social Work Act 2017 then. So what is this? The Children and Social Work Act 2017 is UK legislation designed to improve the support, protection, and outcomes of vulnerable children, particularly those who are either in care, leaving the care system, which is going to be a big change for them, losing all of that support or the support changing, and that are at risk of harm or neglect. So it also strengthens the regulation of social workers, which I think is a big thing because you hear a lot of horror stories, don't you? And that introduces new arrangements for multi-agency safeguarding partnerships again. So key safeguarding provisions then. So number one, I've just put here safeguarding partnership reforms, which replaced local safeguarding children's boards with new local safeguarding partnerships. These partnerships are led by, again, the local authorities, clinical commissioning groups, and the police, and they must work together to protect children in their area and publish annual reports on their safeguarding activities, so people know that they are doing as they said they're going to do, and we know that this process or provision is working. So the Child Safeguarding Practice Review Panel. This is a national panel that was created to investigate serious child safeguarding issues, e.g. as serious as deaths or really serious harm or abuse or neglect. This aims to identify lessons and improve national safeguarding policies and practices. So we've learned from things that have happened. We've identified something. We've made a change to hopefully prevent that from happening again. Support for care leavers. Again, local authorities must provide personal advisors to care leavers up to the age of 25. So these young people have a statutory right to support, especially with education, employment, and housing. That again, big changes for them coming out of care, and they need the support there. Corporate parenting principles. So local authorities must consider 7 key principles when working with looked after children, such as promoting their health, well-being, education, and stability. Now, why does this matter to me in FE and apprenticeships? Many learners in further education or apprenticeships may be care leavers or involved with social services. We have a lot of them, to be honest, more so than we had when I first started. So this is becoming more applicable to, or starting to become applicable to me and my learners. Trainers and education providers must understand the increased safeguarding needs and entitlements of these learners. It promotes stronger collaboration between training providers and safeguarding agencies, especially for our at-risk learners that are going to be more susceptible to some problems. And it reinforces that educational settings play a key role in identifying and responding to signs of neglect or abuse. So that's very important, isn't it? So key areas in Skills and Post-16 Education Act 2022. So the Skills and Post-16 Education Act 2022 is UK legislation aimed at improving the quality, relevance, and accessibility of education and training of learners aged 16 or above. It plays a central role in supporting the government's Skills for Jobs agenda, helping more people into employment through technical and vocational education, which is why we're here. So it also brings SEND support into further education. So further education providers must ensure their curriculum and delivery meet the needs of local learners, including those with special educational needs and disabilities. FE colleges are now legally required to review how well they support learners with SEND and how their provision reflects local skills needs, which is probably why we're pushing this so much at the moment and making sure we're absolutely on the ball with it, including employing staff to manage some of these systems and legislation. Also builds on the Children and Families Act 2014, reinforcing responsibilities around reasonable adjustments and inclusive education. So, strengthen safeguarding duties, the blue one. Colleges and apprenticeship providers must demonstrate robust safeguarding measures to protect vulnerable learners. It encourages greater cooperation between education providers, employers, and local authorities to ensure learners are safe and supported, especially in work-based settings. And it supports the idea that safeguarding should be a whole institution approach, not just confined to the classroom. The whole business should be concerned and should be supporting this. So the pinky purpley coloured one, focus on mental health and well-being. So this includes references to the importance of mental health services in FE. Our Padlet Wall, which is a digital system that we have available for all the learners, they can click on this and find pretty much anonymously loads of mental health support and well-being support. And that's just to give them a bit of an idea of where to go. There are embedded links. It's anonymous. You know, they can just jump on these things and try and start to help themselves out before they come to us, which is brilliant, because some of them might just want to check to see if something is a problem. There might be some information on there. I always go through that at the start of all of our webinars or our web training. So the focus on mental health and well-being then, it includes references to the importance of mental health services in further education and encourages the integration of well-being support into mainstream provision, especially in response to the COVID-19 pandemic's impact, which we've discussed several times, and how people have become nearly hermits, is the way I'd like to put it. Luckily, we have this Padlet Wall, which is an online digital system for our learners, and they can jump on there and look at a load of resources and things that might just give them an idea of, are they having a problem? If they're feeling something, who should they talk to? It's maybe just a bit of they could just touch base and get a feel of if they need to maybe talk to somebody, or they're just curious about how they're feeling. So, why it matters to me in teaching in general and our apprenticeships. It ensures learners with additional needs aren't disadvantaged in accessing or completing vocational training. We don't want to disadvantage anybody. It requires teachers and trainers to be proactive in identifying support needs, not just safeguarding risks. It places an expectation on education providers to align their safeguarding and SEND provision with the needs of their learners and local labour market, which is interesting because it's starting to standardise everything and make everybody have expectations on what we should have. So people can come into training and know they're going to be supported the way that they should be and the way they would be anywhere else. So safeguarding concerns like abuse, neglect, and exploitation can have profound and long-lasting effects. For apprentices, the balance of work, training, and often independent living means that missed signs can quickly lead to problems. Addressing safeguarding issues early can improve retention, performance, and, most importantly, learner well-being. So there's a few things I put on the screen there. Some signs: emotional trauma, anxiety, depression, self-harm. Very common, a lot of those now. They really are. Poor academic engagement or retention of the information. That's a big one. Again, you think some of these people just aren't listening, but is there a little bit more to it? Possibly. Are we missing things? Are we maybe not acting in the correct way? Irregular attendance or unexplained absences. That's quite rare with us, but it's not unheard of. Developmental delays or impaired social interaction. We do see this sometimes. And inappropriate or risk-taking behaviours. We do have the odd ones that will take risks with their behaviours in front of us all, and it's sometimes hard to take what they mean by it, where they're coming from. So, the impact on teaching and workplace environment. And so safeguarding responsibilities can create big challenges in managing the wider learning environment, for sure. Us trainers, we may encounter emotionally distressed learners. Mark has had a couple of emotionally distressed learners, some that weren't his. He just ended up somehow finding them and being involved in them, which I think was probably quite distressing for Mark. I haven't had this too much, luckily, but it's inevitable at some point. So we may have encountered emotionally distressed learners, or be required to make safeguarding referrals to our guys, Tony and Gary, as well. Communication between the provider and workplace supervisor is essential for a joined up approach, which is us communicating with the other half of their apprenticeship, which is where they're in the workplace for 99% of their time before they see us once in a blue moon. So we need to keep good relationships, to keep in touch, which we do, and find out how they are in general, how they're progressing, any issues. So, yeah, it's pretty important. A couple of things again I've put on this slide, which were just important key things. Increased emotional burden on the trainers and staff, which I've covered. Heightened need for collaboration between education and employers, which I've just covered. That's super important, which is why I put it right at the top there. Greater demand for counselling or support services. I think this is becoming more and more of a thing at the moment. And again, it all costs money. How do we deal with it? Who deals with it? Where are these services coming from? How do they get in touch with them? Disruption to group dynamics and teaching flow. This is something that I've had lots of. Again, what's the reason behind it? Is it something along the lines of learners with ADHD? Is it some kind of attention because they're, I don't know, like some kind of reach out possibly because of other problems, masking issues? There's a lot to think about than just a disruptive learner, I believe. And the necessity for clear record keeping and communication. We need to keep records of everything. It's super important. If we didn't record it, it may not have happened. So, roles and responsibilities of teachers then. So, we as trainers are the front line in recognizing and escalating any concerns that we may or may not come across. Warning signs might include changes in appearance, withdrawal from peers, unusual comments or behaviors, or sudden declines of performance. So we need to know how and when to report, and not investigating yourself is a key responsibility. So a couple of points: being vigilant to early warning signs of abuse or neglect, building trust with learners to facilitate disclosures, reporting concerns immediately to DSL using internal procedures, which we all have access to, keeping accurate, confidential records of concerns, undertaking annual safeguarding and prevent training, and ensure safeguarding is embedded into the curriculum content where possible. Again, quite tricky, but we do get it in there. Another thing that I think on this as well it sort of covers the bit that I mentioned about changes in behavior. Knowing your learners, that's a big one for me. If you know your learner quite well, it's going to be much easier for you to spot when something has changed. I really do think that. Okay, so this is our safeguarding and prevent referral flow process, our Bosch one. So at the top, we've got the member of staff and the learner, member of staff in the middle, safeguarding team, and the member of staff, safeguarding team, or external support agency. So let's think of an imaginary learner called Dave. So potential safeguarding issues to close. We've seen something that we think is a problem. So it then comes down. The staff member is to record the full details of the disclosure. That would be me. Next along, is the person in immediate danger? If it's yes, call emergency services and follow it down. If no, which in this case is what it's going to be, is the disclosure relating to a safeguarding issue? Contact the safeguarding team if unsure. So yes or no. So if we went no, it means that the member of staff would monitor and document disclosure via the review process, and then that would go backwards and forwards to the member of staff to include learner support if required. If the answer was yes to if the disclosure is related to a safeguarding issue, then the next step is to complete the safeguarding team, contact the safeguarding team and complete the safeguarding referral form. So if you've done that, the referral form is then received by our safeguarding team. They agree appropriate action, contact an external agency for support if required. This then comes back down to either the member of staff, which is me in this case, the safeguarding team again, or an external support agency, depending on who is decided needs to take the next stage of action. So that then moves on to provide support internally or through an external agency to resolve an issue and notify staff referrer that it's gone elsewhere. So it then comes back up to the safeguarding team to record actions and store on our Nottingham drive, which is a secure server stored in Nottingham, and notify the staff referrer of any actions. And then they will set a date to ensure actions are effective, and it will then move back down to member of staff, safeguarding team, or external support agency to follow up via meetings and contact to close off any actions that were set. So is it done and dusted? Is everyone happy? Are we all good? Yay or nay? And the process may continue, or it may just be finished with and recorded. So common safeguarding indicators in apprentices. So there are some of the behaviours that may suggest something is wrong. In an apprenticeship context, this could include learners being exploited at work, which I think could happen depending on where they're working, or managing issues at home. Spotting these signs allows us to take swift, informed action to support the learner. And again, the swift action is the big one for me. You need to jump on it before it just snowballs into something else. So again, we've covered a few of these: persistent absenteeism or lateness without explanation, learners appearing anxious, feeling withdrawn or fearful, possibly, or looking fearful. I've seen that as well. Frequent use of mobile phones during sessions. This isn't just because they're distracted. It could be possible coercion. So are they being forced into things? And is that the method of communication that this is coming across through? Interesting, but a possibility. I also think the phones are actually glued to their hands, some of my learners, with actual glue. Signs of self-neglect or poor hygiene. I think we've seen some of that. Financial distress or giving away possessions is something else that we need to be aware of. And again, sudden changes in attitude, appearance, or behaviour. If you know your learner, that's going to be much easier to spot. So evaluating safeguarding policies and procedures. So evaluating safeguarding means going beyond compliance. We must ask ourselves, are our policies visible and embedded into the training that we deliver? Are they? Are they supported by our training and understanding at every level, including employers? The employer side we have much less control over, so that's an interesting one. We should be auditing this stuff annually. DSL briefings with our DSL guy, our learner feedback, all contribute to a safer learning culture for everybody. So, again, are our policies clearly written and accessible to all of the staff? Are employers and mentors included in the safeguarding training? That's employers as well. And, these are the guys that they are working with 99% of the time. So if they're not included in any safeguarding training, then we've got a big problem then, haven't we? Does the organisation have an active DSL and deputies? Ours does. Do they have that kind of thing in their employment? Possibly, possibly not. Is there regular CPD for all staff? There certainly should be. I think we're probably lacking a little bit of this, but some of it's coming into effect more so with us, and we're getting more regular with it. Again, the employer side of the apprenticeship, I couldn't tell you. I'm sure we can find out, but should we just know this? Are referral pathways and escalation procedures clear? Do we know how to escalate these things? Is it an easy process? And are learners consulted and aware of safeguarding processes? I don't think they are, to be honest. I think, or not in great detail, I think we need to be showing and telling our learners what happens if there's safeguarding concerns. I don't think half of the apprentices on the planet even know what safeguarding means, really. So certainly something that we could expand on. And they may think, actually, that is relevant to me. This is the situation I'm in. So strategies then for timely intervention. So timely intervention depends on clear reporting structures, swift action again, moving quickly, and coordinated support. So using flow diagrams, safeguarding contact cards, and the DSL briefings help staff respond efficiently, or they should. Learners must feel confident that disclosures are taken seriously and acted upon promptly, because there's nothing worse, I don't think, than knocking somebody's confidence in confiding in somebody to then find that nothing happens. That is pretty bad. Knowing the learner, again, I think is the quickest way to spot an issue. So a couple of bits then. So the use of flowcharts and posters outlining reporting processes. That's a quick, easy, follow it down like the one that I've just gone through on a previous slide. Direct access to our DSL and safeguarding contact details. 100% straight in there. Quick contact, not rummaging around, finding out who deals with things. You need quick, it's this guy, you know this, it's easy information to find. Formal links with external agencies. So CAMHS, the police, and social care, we should have formal links so we have contacts at these places so we can, again, swiftly jump on them, speak to who we need to, get the learner in the correct environment again. Dedicated safeguarding logs for accurate tracking. That's a must. We need to log everything. We might need the information. We need to look back. Have things changed? It's monitoring. We need to monitor these things. A whole organization approach is, again, I'm going to go on about it again, training provider and employer synchronization. We need to work as one unit. I think we do, but not as much as we should do. I think that I'd love to know the ins and outs of the employer side. Actually, it's something I'm probably going to look into after this to see what they do at their end. And regular learner check-ins and surveys to monitor well-being. If there has been an issue or someone, there's maybe the start of an issue, check in with the learner if they're open with you, and you may be able to just monitor it and think, this is under control. Or if it starts to escalate, then we need to escalate that to help them out. Summary and final thoughts then. I've gone back to my original colours on this one, but I did like to change it up all the way through. Keeps it a little bit more interesting. So to finish off, safeguarding in an apprenticeship context demands clarity. Compassion is a big one, which is part of Bosch's ethics as well. They push for compassion and collaboration between all of us. By remaining vigilant, trained, and well-informed, we create not only safer spaces for our learners, but also better and more positive outcomes for our learners as well. So, again, a couple of key things. Safeguarding in apprenticeships is complex. I'm finding it's a heck of a lot more complex than I thought it was until I'd done all this research. but it is most certainly essential. The responsibility lies with every adult involved in that learner's journey. Policies must be live documents, regularly updated and reviewed, or we don't know if there's any changes in circumstance and we have no record of it happening in the first place. So that is imperative. And effective safeguarding supports achievement, well-being, and safety. So it's all around going to be much better for everybody and important. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to finish with these sources, which have formed the basis of good safeguarding practices and all of my research. I've done a heck of a lot of Googling. I've found all sorts on different sites. And they all revolve around the practice in post-16 education and apprenticeships, and earlier than that as well. But I've just tried to focus it into the chunk of years that are really applicable to me. Through all these, they should ensure our approaches are within the law, robust and do exactly what they're supposed to, black and white, and always learner-centered. That's the key. So you can see all these here. I've used the Department for Education 2023, Keeping Children Safe in Education, the HM Government 2018, Working Together to Safeguard Children, the Children's Act 89 and 2004, Safeguarding Vulnerable Group Acts 2006, Counter-Terrorism and Security Act 2015, Prevent Duty, Education and Training, the Welfare of Children Act 2021, Children and Social Work Act 2017, Skills and Post-16 Education Act 2022, and our Bosch's Safeguarding and Prevent Referral Flow Process, amongst other things. I'm hoping I've got the right end of the stick with this, because I've spent a lot of hours doing this, Janet. So I really hope this is what you were looking for. Even if it's not, I've learned so much doing just this one task. It's unreal. And I now have a heck of a lot of references that I can now use, and thoughts that I'm probably not going to forget going forward as well. So either way, if you do like it, brilliant. If you don't like it, I've learned something. So at least it wasn't time wasted. So brilliant. And that's about all I've got to tell you for the time being. So I'm now going to continue with tasks 2, 3, and 4. So I'll see you next time. Thanks, Janet.